I never expected that night to change everything. My mother and I were in my room, casually talking about the day, when my brother suddenly walked in. His face was unreadable, and there was something strange in the way he looked at me. My mother's expression shifted, too, like she knew something I didn't. I tried to brush it off, but the air in the room grew heavier. Something was off. My brother wasn't his usual self. Normally, he was confident, always cracking jokes, always the one to lighten the mood. But this time, he wasn't laughing. His hands were clenched at his sides, and his eyes darted between me and Mom like he was preparing for something. Mom sighed, sitting down on the edge of my bed. "There's something we need to talk about," she said softly. I frowned. "What's going on?" My brother inhaled sharply, looking down as if he could meet my eyes. That was the first real sign that whatever was about to happen wouldn't be good. Mom reached for my hand, but I pulled away instinctively. My heart started racing, though I had no idea why. "You need to hear this from us before you find out any other way," she continued. Find out what? My mind raced with possibilities, but nothing prepared me for what would come next. My brother finally looked up, his face full of something that almost looked like guilt. "It's about," he hesitated, as if even saying it was difficult. Then he took a deep breath and said her name. My girlfriend's name. My stomach dropped. My girlfriend? What about her? Mom's grip on my wrist tightened. She, and your brother, they've been," she trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. I froze. Time seemed to stop as I processed what she was trying to tell me. I searched my brother's face for some kind of denial, some indication that this was all a mistake. But there was none. I laughed, but it wasn't real. "You're joking." My brother finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not." A sick feeling washed over me. My body tensed, every nerve on edge. "You're telling me that you—" I couldn't even finish the sentence. The words felt disgusting in my mouth. He didn't respond, but he didn't need to. The truth was there, hanging in the air like a weight I couldn't escape. Mom's eyes were filled with something I couldn't read. Pity? Guilt? Maybe both. I stood up, shaking my head. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. "How long?" A long silence. Then my brother muttered, "A while."
A while.
Those words shattered everything. I turned to Mom. "And you knew?" She hesitated. That hesitation was enough. Betrayal. From my brother. From my mother. From the person I thought I loved. I never thought my own family would break me like this. But they just did. I couldn't breathe. My mind refused to accept what I had just heard. My brother, my own blood, had been with the woman I loved. And my mother, she had known. She had kept it from me. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms, but the pain didn't distract me from the storm raging inside. "How could you?" My voice was barely above a whisper, but the weight behind it was crushing. My brother exhaled, rubbing his hands over his face. "It wasn't supposed to happen this way," he muttered. I scoffed. "So, how is it supposed to happen? You are going to keep lying to me forever?" Mom flinched at the venom in my voice. "We didn't want to hurt you," she said, as if that made any of this better. I let out a hollow laugh. "That's funny, because that's exactly what you did." I turned to my brother, my body trembling. "Tell me why. Give me one good reason." He hesitated. His eyes darted around the room, searching for words that wouldn't make him sound like a monster. "I didn't plan it," he finally said. "We just connected." The words sliced through me like a blade. I had spent years with this woman, trusting her, building a future with her. And now all of it, every moment, every promise, meant nothing. "I loved her," I said, my voice cracking. My brother swallowed hard. "I know." I took a step closer. "Did you love her too?" He didn't answer. That silence spoke louder than any confession. I felt sick. "How long?" "A few months," he admitted. "A few months." While I had been making plans, dreaming about a life together, they had been doing this behind my back. Mom reached for me again, but I jerked away. "Don't." My voice was sharp, final. "She was going to tell you," Mom said quickly. but she didn't know how. I turned away, my hands gripping the edge of my desk so hard my knuckles turned white. My whole world had just collapsed, and they were standing there, acting like there was anything they could say to fix it. My brother sighed. I didn't want to hurt you. I spun around, rage flashing in my eyes. Then why did you do it? He had no answer, and I had nothing left to say. I walked past them, pushing the door open. I couldn't stay there. I needed air, space, anything to stop the walls from closing in. Mom called after me, but I didn't turn back. I couldn't, because if I did, I wasn't sure if I'd ever be able to forgive them. The cold night air hit me as I stepped outside, but it did nothing to numb the pain burning inside. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions: anger, betrayal, heartbreak. I wanted to scream, to hit something, to wake up and find out this was all a bad dream. But it wasn't. This was real. I walked aimlessly, my thoughts spiraling. Every moment with her played back in my mind like a cruel joke. The way she used to look at me, the promises she made, the nights we spent talking about the future. Had any of it been real? Or had she been lying to me the entire time? And my brother, someone I trusted more than anyone. He had been there through everything, through my struggles, my victories, my heartbreaks. And now, he had become the reason for my worst one yet. I stopped walking, my breath uneven. I needed answers. I pulled out my phone and, without thinking, dialed her number. My heart pounded as it rang. She picked up. Hey, her voice was cautious, like she had been expecting this call. I clenched my jaw. How long were you going to keep this from me? A pause. I didn't want you to find out like this. I let out a bitter laugh.
Right.
Because there's a better way to tell someone you've been with their brother behind their back. She sighed. I never meant to hurt you. Then why did you do it? I snapped. Was I not enough? Did you ever even love me? Another silence. Then she whispered, I did love you, but things changed. I felt like the ground beneath me had been ripped away. Things changed, I repeated. That's your excuse? She sniffled, like she was about to cry, but I didn't care. She wasn't the one who had been blindsided. She wasn't the one who had been made a fool of. I didn't plan for this to happen, she continued. I fought it. But what? I cut her off. You just couldn't help yourself?
She didn't respond.
And that silence told me everything. I shook my head, gripping the phone tighter. You know what? It doesn't matter anymore. Please, she whispered. Don't hate me. I closed my eyes, swallowing the lump in my throat. I don't hate you, I admitted. I just wish I had never met you. I ended the call before she could say another word. My chest felt hollow, my mind numb. The woman I loved was gone. My brother wasn't my brother anymore. And my mother had watched it all unfold in silence. I had lost them all in a single night. And now I had to figure out how to move on without them. The next morning, everything felt different. The house, once filled with warmth, now felt suffocating. I avoided my brother and my mother, unable to even look at them. Their betrayal had carved a wound too deep to ignore. I packed a bag, each item thrown inside feeling like another severed tie. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay. This place held nothing for me anymore. Only pain, only memories that had turned into lies. As I zipped the bag, there was a soft knock on my door. I ignored it. A moment later, my mother's voice broke through the silence. Please talk to me. I took a deep breath, forcing down the lump in my throat. There's nothing to talk about. She hesitated before stepping inside. I never wanted this to happen. I turned, finally facing her. But you let it. Her eyes welled up, but I didn't care. I had spent the entire night trying to understand why she hadn't stopped it, why she had chosen silence over loyalty. And I had no answers. I thought if I ignored it, it would go away, she admitted. I thought maybe she would realize she still loved you, and I shook my head. Stop. She fell silent, watching me with pleading eyes. I don't want to lose you. I swallowed hard. You already have. The words cut deep, even for me. But I meant them. She had let this happen. And now I had to live with the consequences. I brushed past her, gripping my bag as I walked out. My brother stood in the hallway, his expression unreadable. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said, "I don't expect you to forgive me." I exhaled sharply.
Good.
Because I never will. His jaw tightened, but he nodded, accepting it. I hope one day you'll understand. I stared at him, disgusted. I don't want to understand. With that, I walked away. I left the house that had once been my home, knowing I could never go back. The world outside felt different, colder, lonelier, but at least it was honest. I had lost my family, lost the woman I loved, but I still had one thing left. Myself. And I would never let anyone betray me like that again.